Anyways, we are back in the game, and as stated before, we didn't miss a beat. I just quickly restarted the stream in order to get the extra Nerd Factory for base straight up and running. Spawning in the lower left corner of the map, though, he was your former finalist. He came second place in the first ever STARBOW tournament. It is the Purple Zerg player, Heusa. And his opponent in the upper right. Putting on a pretty good show today, TXM's Blue Protoss, Maniek. And let me just go paranoidly make sure the stream is in fact up and running again. That Twitch delay, give it a sec. Okay, I'm a little bit panicking, guys. It's not showing live on my thing. Let's refresh the page to make sure. Okay, it's live. Fantastic. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so again, my apologies for this little bit of an awkward opening. We did restart the stream real quick to make sure things would go off appropriately without a hiccup. Actually, is it live? I'm sorry. Give me a sec here, dudes. Okay, it is. It's working. Cool. So, if you missed the introductions real quick, again, it is Maniek, the Blue Protoss, and our former second place finalist in the first ever STARBOW tournament, Heusa. This is sadly a best of one in a series that I would have definitely liked to have seen as a best of three, but you gotta deal with what you got. This should be a pretty interesting game. Heusa showed he is really talented when it came against BCQD, but this is not BCQD. It is in fact a Protoss player named Maniek, so no Terrans to worry about for now. But if SimCity here at the top of the ramp, kind of a curious thing to see. SimCity is something that seems to have been neglected by a lot of Protoss players upon the removal of Warp Tech, but Maniek's still choosing to incorporate it. Both players are scouting for each other here on Circuit Breaker. Kind of a cool map. We got a glimpse at last time too. So again, I don't want to go too much in depth about either of these for now, guys. The basics of this though are simply that for Protoss players, Chrono Boost is no longer an innate ability. You have to actually get an upgrade off of the Gateway technology in order to utilize it. They get a cool sort of like basic recall. There's no Mothership Core. There you go, Bob's your Uncle Dragoons, not Stalkers. Well, Stalkers are still available, but that's another can of worms. Speaking of can of worms, Larva, that's a segue, folks. Larva injects have been changed quite dynamically. Queens, of course, can no longer auto-attack either, as we've seen so far. And there you go. If you've just tuned in, you've officially been caught up with what everyone else has seen so far today. The real intricacies of this game kind of fall into the mid-game, the late game. Like, it's a very slow-paced start, but once action starts, it's not fast-paced. It is relentless, though. And oftentimes you don't see players let up on it. The macro in this game is not pumping out 19 Marines at a time, but instead 4 Zerglings and 2 Dragoons constantly going at it, constantly pushing across the map into one another. A couple links going to take out this probe, and of course Queens, as we saw last game, have the coolest new look with an enrage attached. I like this earlier spine crawler too. You know, you don't really see a lot of rooted static defense in StarCraft 2, and it's not as necessary as it is here in STARBOW. So Maniek's pushes will of course be kind of poked back thanks to having that down and available. Scourges we actually saw last game too did get a new model, which was kind of neato burrito, but it looks like Maniek this time is going to be using some Scarab power, some Reavers if you will. If you guys have never seen Reavers, they do come from Brood War. They were removed in favor of getting Colossus for StarCraft 2. Lung's going to try and get up to their scout, but unfortunately will not be afforded that opportunity. Probe is going to block him out of the base, and this kind of sucks because the Reavers, okay, to explain how Reavers work in its simplicity, like it's just the most basic way, guys. They build banelings that cost 15 minerals that they can shoot out. There you go. That's the best way I can describe this for you. So what players are going to do, because they are so just frustratingly slow, using them on their own are terrible. But when you pair them up with a shuttle, or in this instance, a warp prism, they're actually incredibly effective. And if you start dropping them on top of the player who's got like 15 clumped up Zerglings, well, those Zerglings are going to die, bottom line. One spine crawler simply won't be enough, and you know, I don't think Heusa is going to be caught off guard by this per se, but this is still something rather deadly that he has to keep an eye on, and not scouting this is going to be a little bit problematic, I think. Some damage is certainly going to get done. You could lose an entire worker line in an instant, and of course, there's no easy way to deal with the Warp Prisms without building something like Scourge. So right now, he's investing in that layer tech. I love this third base, by the way. Zombie Grub pointed this out to us last games. For those of you who are like me, who are not the giant Brood War fanatics, but enjoy casting and watching STARBOW, it's not so much that it's a ninja base as it is a further away base. So just get away from like where that typical third will be. Because if this third base was taken, this would be destroyed. This would be wrecked. REKT by a couple of Reaver shots, but instead looks like the natural base would be the target for this. Reavers also take a very slow and long amount of time to arm. As we can see, the target goes off, but it's not anything instantaneous, and the scarabs do hit so wickedly hard. Oh no, don't clump the drones! Ugh, some more workers get killed. Nothing too devastating there on that shot, but still, about 4 workers dead so far. 6, sorry, in total. Bit of a nuisance to deal with, to say the least. Goes off on an egg this time, so not a lot dies, just mostly the larva. Doing what he can to stay on top of this. I like Heusa's moves, but unfortunately, as stated before, it's the Warp Prism that's the problem, not so much the Reaver. So, Spire on the way. White Thrust Special Tactics! I like that Maniek's having some fun with this too. Heusa is, of course, trying to bait these shots with the Zerglings, because right now, Maniek, he's not doing any micro. Like, what he's doing is he's just unloading it. He's trying to get that auto attack off and loads back into the Warp Prism. And for what costs a couple of resources to build a Scarab, I mean, realistically, this is incredibly cost-effective for him. Finally pushed away here out of the base for the moment's time. I don't know Scarabs build inside a Warp Prism. I assume they do, because it's got a constant attack, but, alright. 15 workers dead so far. Not fun to deal with, but Maniek is kind of slipping on his macro back at home. He didn't saturate his natural base. He's got 23 probes in the main, and while this is 23 out of 27, it's like StarCraft 2. You never want to have that full amount. You got to have it more like 14 or 16. I don't actually know what the optimal number is for STARBOW, but it's not 27. One Mutalisk is slowly going to chase this Warp Prism away. Meanwhile, we got some Zerglings going for an attack across the map, saying, I can't deal with this anymore at home. Unfortunately, cannot break the wall of Zealots that are guarding that natural base. But if Heusa was looking, he's going to be really happy to see that that base was not saturated. That despite the fact that he's lost so many drones this game, his opponent only has like a 30 worker advantage at the moment, barely off of 2 bases. He'll be saturating his 3rd here in a moment, and is going to have a very nice economy to fall back on, but he needs to get those drones up and running, which means he can't spend larva on making Mutalisks, which kind of sucks. So maneuvering around with a couple for now. We do see a Dark Templar not warping in, but of course being built, and for those who don't know, Dark Templar are essentially the same. They're the one unit that really has not been tweaked too much between STARBOW, StarCraft 2, or Brood War. Except I guess the one exception is you can actually make Dark Templar into Archons, which you cannot do in or with other Templar, I believe was the change. So like you don't need 2 Dark Templar, you do like 1 High Templar and 1 Dark Templar or something like that. Unless I misread the tooltip. I'm not the most experienced guy here, guys. Not gonna lie. But worker damage being dealt in full to pay this back. Mutalisk, of course, still a bit of a pain in the butt to deal with. Even with Dragoons here, we see multiple probes going down, and the special tactics have been repaid at this point. 15 workers for 23, and Maniek is trying to push with some Zealots. Queen does not have the energy to enrage, unfortunately, so defending against this is going to be a little bit tough. He's got 1 Spine Collar to deal with this for now. And looks like the Reaver has been brought back in once again. I wish it would stop building so I can see how many kills it has, but you know what? We know how many kills it has. Upwards of 27. Zealots on the front line. Heusa gotta bring those Mutalisks back home. Unfortunately, he is trying to focus down the Templar Archives, which is not a terrible choice. He wants to cut out any chance of Dark Templar being made, but unfortunately, Dark Templar are in fact here. No Overseer available. And this is going to hurt. Dealing with this as if it wasn't problematic enough. And Overseer now on the way. We're still mining off of this base, not out of the game. And not screwed just yet, but not in a situation that he would like to be in. Oh, God, those Scarabs are so nasty. But, of course, Reavers are so painfully slow, guys. Once the Warp Prism dies, it is not a threat to deal with, not in the slightest. Last couple batch of drones go down, but it's still 10 workers to 18. Both players in a terrible spot as far as their economy is concerned. Maniek and Heusa definitely trading out here this game. Curious to see him not choose to focus the Warp Prism, though. He just basically lets the Reaver get away. 55 kills on that Reaver, boys and girls. Dark Templar falls and looks like, I think Maniek knows something's up. He's like, wait, there's no way you're still producing off of 1 base and no drones. He may not know about where the base is, but he's got to have an inkling of an idea that, like, there's something else out on the map. Now, Archons are still great against Mutalisks, just like they are in regular StarCraft 2. You fly a flock of stacked Mutalisks on top of Archons, those Mutalisks are going to die. So, does have to be a little bit careful about this right now. A little bit tunnel vision, perhaps. Heusa is chasing the Warp Prism around, but don't. Please. He has a family. There's a Mrs. Warp Prism waiting for him. Looks like Warp Prism will go down. And nice spread on those drones out of Heusa. Really big compliment on that regard, but 56 workers, or sorry, 56 kills in total, and the Reaver will end up going down for the game. Now pushing the front lines, though, a little bit scary. Scourges are here, but what are Scourges going to do other than suicide into air units, which are not currently available? There's just no real good way for Heusa to engage this. He needed lurkers, he needed hydralisks, and like I said, tunnel visioning perhaps a little too hard. It happens to the best of us. Ends up not seeing this tech swap coming, or not even a tech swap, but this additional push coming. The 6 mutalisks he has would actually have no problem dealing with the Dragoons with some small amount of link support, but you know, right now this is just his economy in the gutter. He doesn't have the resources to make any sort of tech change, and I like that he's utilizing the mutalisks here. Like, he's trying to pick off what he can, knowing that he can't engage on top of that army. This top left corner base may just have to become his new main, because there's no easy way to deal with what's available. Overseer even being chased out. Overseer's, of course, pretty slow without that Nucleus Carapace upgrade. 3 more Dark Templar on the way, and this game is looking pretty grim for our previous second place finisher, Heusa. Spire about to fall, but that's okay. Spire not really the most critical structure at this point. I don't know, man. He's making Lings because he has to, but Lings are not the way to engage on top of this. As we see, the splash damage from the Archons is pretty darn good. Not spreading out the Mutalisks is going to cost him here, and it looks like the last couple units of Heusa will go down, and unfortunately for him, this is only a best of 1. Good control with the Lings, but still can't quite chew through those Archons. So many shields on them make them so difficult to deal with. 8 more Lings coming out. If there's Hydralisk, I'd be like, man, he's still got a chance. He might still be in this game, but you know, he's taking off the Zealots. He's picking off small amounts of uses here and there. I gotta give it to Heusa. He's controlling this great for how terrible of a situation it is. But the Hydralisk Den is about to fall down, and looks like that Dragoon will even live to see another day. Moving out for an attack, hoping to counterattack and pick up some workers to even out the game. 1 base it to 1 base it. I don't think that's gonna be the case of 4 Lings. There's Dark Templar at home. There's Zealots at home. Zealots are chasing across the map. Heusa, I think he knows he's out of this game, guys, but he just wants to do what he can before he goes, because this is not how you want to go. This is the bottom line here. That Reaver harass was a little too much, and it was, quite frankly, very cool. So special tactics are awarded to Maniek. Alright. So if you guys want to play STARBOW, by the way, it is a public set of maps, as Solo Sun's put in chat. You just literally search STARBOW in the in the arcade to find new games. But I'm going to refresh that bracket and see what we can get into next.